everybody, David here from Team Ultra Instinct, bringing you a Fusion World leader analysis and breakdown of each of them. So basically analyzing what, at least I think my initial thoughts are on what their strategies are going to be going forward. Some of them are pretty apparent as to what they're going to be. Some of them are still shaping out as reveals go on. Currently recording this as of the 16th of December, so we're maybe about a third of the way through set reveals, maybe half. I don't think we're quite halfway through. I think we're still under half. They did drop all the leaders as of last night. Definitely loving all the leader arts. So I'm going to go all the way from the starter deck leaders to all the set revealed leaders and give my analysis on each of them. So starting off right away, I'll kind of flip over here because for some reason they don't have the Unawakened side here. Starting with the first starter deck leader, the Red Goku leader. Very generic leader. We've seen it since the demo, so nothing new here in terms of mechanics. Pretty much every leader is going to have the same Unawakened side except for the inset leaders where there's a little bit of variety. So your standard one attacking, draw one, and then you awaken at 4 or less life, draw a card, flip over. What sets him apart from a lot of other leaders is not the one attacking part, but the activate battle here. This activate battle does still work on both turns. So the activate battle, choose up to one of your battle cards and it gets 5k power for the battle. That can be relevant if someone's swinging a same power card at one of your battle cards. So for example, say someone's swinging a 25k power card into your Son Gohan Adolescence, and obviously you're at 25k power here. You have an activated battle on your Awakened side. So what you'll do here is you'll activate battle, cost you 0 cards from hand. You'll keep the Gohan alive at least once. It's not like the activate battle works on your leader; it only works on battle cards. So there really isn't no reason to do this. I mean, it's only gonna give you some merit to not lose cards in hand and make them work to remove this card, the Gohan on board, especially if it's still fishing a card from their hand. So overall, based on the decks, I would honestly say that this one's probably one of the weaker leaders out of what's been revealed so far. I don't think it's the best leader out of red right now, but I do think it's very interesting and how the activate battle works on both turns. It could be pretty powerful going forward, but as of right now, with what we've currently seen, I don't really think he's anything too crazy. I think he's solid. I will point out that they have confirmed that leader colors do determine the color of your deck. So if your leader is red, your entire deck is going to be red. You can't splash in other colors. Your leader would have to be a multicolored leader to have 2 different colors, 3 colors, whatever. So in this case, he's a red leader. He'll be a red deck. I think he'll be a pretty aggro deck, but not like extremely aggro. Probably like more mid-game-ish. Getting turn 5 is when you expect him to really do anything insane. But having the ability to give an additional bump in power is pretty useful, especially if you're going swinging this Gohan into a leader. Their leader's a 20k power on the Awakened side, so your standard. You bump him up to a 30k. Now you're forcing them to either one, have an extra card to out it, two, have a 10k plus a 5k to out it, or three, they're just going to take the crit damage. So definitely has a lot of merit with the 5k power. But I think I'll touch a little bit more on this specific leader a little later and why I don't think he's the best. Jumping over to our next leader here, let's pull up the Vegeta. Vegeta, your standard awakening conditions, your unawakened side. So nothing too crazy here. What sets him apart from other leaders is how massive he can get. So when attacking, draw 1 card. His activate main, if you have 7 or fewer cards in your hand, this card gets 15k power for the turn. So yes, he is playing with a lower hand size. He's not trying to sit around 10 cards, 11 cards in hand. He is playing on the edge. Basically, you want to sit at having around 7 cards at all times to get full potential out of the blue mechanics. So even though he is color locked, the ability to be a 35k swing is absolutely huge on a leader. Yes, if they have a blocker and they block it, kind of sucks, but you have the ability to remove cards in blue. There's a lot of stuff that bounces back to hand. There's a few cards that bottom deck. Definitely can see this leader still doing a lot for. I think he's one of the best starter decks, if not the best starter deck leader. But really, he wants to focus around extra card manipulation, playing on the edge of having 7 cards in hand. So they feature a couple cards within his deck right off the bat. And so one of the ones that I really think is going to be important going forward is this Gotenks. Really good card, actually. So if you have 7 or fewer cards in your hand, you add up to Sun Go 10 and Trunks Youth from both with an energy cost of 2 or less from your drop to your hand. So if you have 8 cards in hand when you're going to play this Go Tanks, he'll be dropping you down to 7 cards in hand. As soon as you play him, you'll have 7 in hand. You pick up a Go 10 and a Trunks from your drop, and you're back up to 9 cards in hand. Really useful there. It's a nice way to have some recycling going on and playing the edge, like I said. Um, and with Vegeta, being a 35k power, if you sequence everything right, this is going to be a huge threat. The deck can output some big damage and still maintain solid hand size. Like when I say solid hand size, it usually still maintains that 7 cards in hand. So it's actually pretty interesting in how it functions. I do think this is a deck to reckon. Just keep in mind that this guy gets big. It's one of the few leaders that it doesn't really have a cost for the activate main. Like, yes, you have to have a certain amount of cards in hand, but really it's not going to affect you, especially if you're just getting that extra 15k power. I mean, on a leader card, that's huge. That is big. Overall, I think he is going to be one of the better blue decks. Maybe not the best blue deck, but I do think he's going to be really good. There is a fair amount of removal in the game if played correctly, so it might be a little bit difficult to maintain board presence. Kind of depends on the matchup, to be honest. But it's very interesting that he wants to stick around that 7 cards in hand. I'm not a huge fan of being that low in hand, but if you can make it work and get the full merit from it, um, I definitely see this deck going to the next level as long as you understand how to sequence everything. So Broly, I honestly do think Broly is one of the weaker leaders to be revealed. For green, it's nice that he is a base 25k in the Awaken side, but what I don't like is he's a 4 life Awakening, and then you actually end up losing a life to go into your energy and rest mode. Um, so yes, you're basically just dropping down to 3 life right away. Um, and then for the Broly leader, when he's awakened, yeah, he's a 25k base leader, which means your opponent might have to work a little bit extra to deal damage to you. But his trade-off is you have to blow up one of your own energy to get the full effects from him. So activate main, place one of your energy in your drop, draw a card, then this card gets plus 5k power for the turn. So unless there's more that kind of mitigates losing some of the energies you're getting, like there are ways to ramp. He came with ramp cards in his deck. He comes with this Turles. He comes with a 3-drop extra card that helps you ramp. There is a new promo card coming out as well that is ramp, but it does cost you a card from your hand to ramp. So at the same time, is that really good? I don't really think the Broly deck's going to be maintaining a huge amount of cards in hand. Is the really big downside for it. But there's a Goku here where you can basically ramp a card from your hand into your energy. So I think while he's nice because 25k base power, your opponent has to work for it a little bit. If they know how to sequence it, or if they're playing like the Vegeta leader, for example, it really doesn't matter sometimes. That extra 5k could make or break some games, but I don't think it's gonna differentiate it a lot. I'm gonna be honest with that. I think not having the static, just when attacking and drawing a card, is what really sets it off. And I could be totally wrong. I could be wrong with my initial analysis. There could be more in the set past what we've already seen. Um, and he's got some very solid SRs in his deck, don't get me wrong. But I don't think he's going to be in a spot where he's just the most viable green leader right now, at least for now. I could be proven wrong as time goes on. I currently do not think he's the best green leader. But still a powerful one at that. I mean, being that extra power higher is still relevant. Definitely an interesting leader. Obviously, he wants to focus on ramping and getting up to some big bomb drops. He does have a couple cards that are restricted to be working specifically with him at full power. So it is nice to see that he has extremely tied-in support that really lets him recycle blockers. It's a good way to have the extra defense live or extra combo power. There's ways to play these Paragus cards to get full value. But like I said, I don't think he's got anything crazy going for him. Just some nice extra cards and some nice SRs. But I think a lot of these SRs are just going to transition out of this deck into other decks. I think, honestly, my favorite deck they revealed so far was the Yellow Frieza deck. Don't know why. Something just clicked with it with me, but I know it has some obvious flaws with it. So standard on this side, on the Awakened side. Um, this is definitely going to be a very interesting deck. It's very reminiscent of the set 1 Frieza leader from Masters. At the end of your turn, you choose up to 2 of your battle cards and switch them to active mode. So in this case, he's got a couple best friends for this. So you could do a few options here. You can restand cards that you don't want your opponent to attack into, and you want to force them to have the answer to them. Or 2, some good examples right here. You have some big blockers or a 2-drop blocker for 20k power. You can on play add a card from your life to your hand. Great, cool, helps you self-awaken. But it being a 2-drop 20k means you can attack with it, and then at the end of the turn you can restand it and have it live for being a blocker in the next turn. Same case goes for this King Cold, where he can be a 25k attacker but be restood at the end of the turn. So Frieza looks like he's trying to be more of, you can't touch my cards unless I want you to, or you have to have the out in your hand. And with this, it also gives you the potential to be aggressive while also being defensive, which is never a bad thing. Being able to attack with a blocker and then still have a blocker is absolutely relevant. However, there are some weaknesses to it. Since some of these blockers are low cost, that means there are answers to these low cost bodies. There's stuff that removes up to 4 cost. There's stuff that removes up to 2 cost. Anything over 4 typically gets a little more rare as time goes on. So hitting the 5-drop is a little bit more difficult, but he isn't a blocker, so keep that in mind. So if you restand him, you're really just telling your opponent you don't want them to attack it. As for the blockers, they are removable, but at least with King Cold, he has a trade-off here. His trade-off is he has a when KO'd effect. So if your opponent KOs it with a 4 or less or something, you can at least switch something to rest mode. Oh, sorry, I forgot. He doesn't switch something to rest mode. Different card. He actually KOs a 4 or less in rest mode. So pretty nice that he actually has the ability to do that. A little bit of punishment onto your opponent. Or if they swing with a 4, and then you guys end up trading, you kill the 4 that attacked it. Basically revenge, but with extra steps. Very nice. I like that we can have a blocker and then still attack with it. I do remember in the first set of Masters that it was actually a pretty interesting leader. It could catch people off guard, and with certain builds, it got pretty creative. Wasn't anything like super meta or anything. It would just float around. Interesting. Nothing crazy in the first set, but this is the first set of Fusion World. We have a lot to see from the main set. I've seen some strategies that are already pairing very well with this leader. So excited to see where this takes us. I think it has a lot of potential as time goes on, but it has limitations as more and more removal comes out. That's where it kind of starts to invalidate this leader, unless for some reason they bring back barrier or some sort of effect that at least protects a card for 1 skill a turn or something, or 1 battle. I don't know. It would take a little bit of maintaining this leader to make him stay relevant. Early game, like I said, he'll stay relevant for a little bit, but I don't know how crazy he's going to be. So overall, I think this leader's going to be good. I don't think he's going to be like 100% great, like you must play him. His strategy is pretty apparent. Solid leader. I definitely like him for yellow. So into the actual set reveals. So I think the leader that we're looking at here is the best red leader. And when I read him, I was just like, wait, what? So standard unawakened side here. He's a Universe 7 Goku. I think the other one is also technically Universe 7. It is. But a lot of this stuff that comes in this starter deck actually just straight transitions over into this main set leader. So, like I said, standard unawakened side. But on the awakened side here, he has a permanent that says, your turn. All your battle cards with Universe 7 in their special traits get plus 5k power. So obviously not the leader is going to gain it, but we're looking at an entire board gaining plus 5k power. All of a sudden, all of your 1-drops that are 15ks that are Universe 7 are now 20ks. All of your 2-drops are 25ks. I could keep going up the numbers, but this is basically One Piece's Zoro implemented into Fusion World. Funny enough, they are in the same color scheme. So I thought that was kind of funny. A lot of good Universe 7 cards that exist. So this is a little bit scary on what he can do. He can be a really aggressive deck if he wanted to be, if he saw the right cards. Um, Paired with some of the right skills, crit, double strike. To my knowledge, there actually is a 2-drop crit. Yeah, there is a 2-drop crit for Universe 7. It's out of the starter deck as well. It's a Vegeta. So not having to waste an activate battle on just like that Vegeta to make him relevant is huge. Having the static 5k across the board are already big. Makes all of your battle cards start becoming relevant except for like the true weenies. So I definitely think that this leader is going to be the best red leader just because of how versatile it is. Yes, it's tied into Universe 7 cards pretty heavily just because that's where the full merit comes in, whereas the starter deck leader isn't tied into Universe 7. It's generic, but to a certain degree, a one-time use generic skill compared to an entire board being affected. A little bit of trade-off in terms of the early development of the game. Early development kind of proves that this leader is certainly the better one to start, unless they just cram out some like insane non-Universe 7 red SRs. And we've already seen one Universe 7 red SR, and it's good. It's a 3-drop that can neg 20k on play, and I think you can take a life, which is pretty relevant. I would be rushing to the Awakened side on this. There's no reason to not to. You get your full merit and just keep being aggro, like I said. So definitely a deck to fear. This is where it gets a little different. So we have our third red leader, the second one from the set. On Awakened side, he has critical, already relevant. Crit is a very strong skill, denying your opponent card catch up, I guess the best way to put it. Denying them to take that card from their life to their hand is always a huge portion of the game. It denies them hand size, and it's also making them lose a life at the same time. It's also a 20k power on your turn, so 20k crit swing on your own turn while on Awaken is pretty relevant. That means even if you don't rush into your Awakening, you're still pressuring your opponent's life, even when they are Awakened. Obviously, Broly does break that a little bit since he's a 25k base power. Standard 4 life Awakening, draw a card, flip over. So, I've been going back and forth on how I feel about the Awakened side on this. Part of me thinks it's good, part of me thinks it's bad. It has its merits, it has its combos, but I think the setup is a little bit more complicated than it should be. You can kill weenies easy, sure. When attacking, draw a card. Activate main, choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards, and give it minus 10k power for the turn. So I think what this deck is trying to do is it's trying to be a more red board control, which is certainly possible. It can still apply aggression while controlling board. So paired with a card like the 4-drop Gohan SR from the Goku starter deck, who has critical, and also when attacking, choose one of your opponent's battle cards and give it minus 10k power for the turn. You're talking crit pressure on their life, minusing something 10k power, and then we go to the Beerus leader and you can minus that same card 10k power. And then if it had 20k power to begin with, that card just dies, because anything that reaches 0 power dies by game mechanics. There are a lot of other cards in here it pairs up well with. This Goku here, for example, neg 20k when it's played. So a lot of board minusing and dealing with it like that. I think that's where Beerus really thrives. But there's another card that I'm thinking of from the promos here. This Goku here, applying pressure, he's a 2-drop. When attacking, choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards with 10k power or less and KO it. So a nice way to mitigate that with Beerus in the mix. He can drop a 20k to a 10k, and then Goku can swing and pop it. So still relevant. And Goku being a 2-drop here is a lot more energy conservative. And it's still a 5k combo, so it's pretty useful. So I think this promo is going to be one of Beerus' best friends. The deck looks like it's very interesting, but I don't think it's the best of the red leaders for now, unless they, like I said, it could turn the tide really quickly. There can be some SRs that are tied into specific traits or leaders. He does still have the Universe 7 trait as well, so if something references a Universe 7 leader, he can still pull from that pool and take it just fine. So he's got a lot of room for development. Definitely, he seems interesting. I just don't think he's quite there yet. And maybe he will be. I don't know. So Goku Black, one of the first set leaders for Blue that they revealed. He has the same unawakened side as Beerus. But what really set him apart, I thought was very interesting. His awakened side, he's still 20k power when attacking, draw a card. Activate main. Once per turn, place one Zamasu from your battle area at the bottom of your deck. During this turn, the next time you use and play Goku Black from your hand, reduce the cost by 2. This would actually be a skill that's relevant in Masters, so this is where I'm very surprised. This is a very, very interesting skill. If they come out with more Zamasus later on that are just really good in blue, it could get a little scary. We've only seen one Goku Black from the top of my head, and it is a 30k 4-drop vanilla. Let's see if I can find it here real quick for you guys. Pretty relevant, though, to turn a 4-drop into a 2-drop. This is the only 1-drop Zamasu I know of as of current. I don't think they revealed anything else, but he's a 15k vanilla. Probably not going to be anything crazy. But as for the Goku Black, we have right here 4-drop 30k vanilla. Turning that into a 2-drop 30k vanilla, kind of scary. So if this deck does get more tools, I can see it being a scary deck. If this is where it's limited at, this deck isn't going to do much. But I'm sure they're going to have one more Zamasu and one more Goku Black. I mean, I can't imagine they'd only throw one of each at you in the first set. That's a huge limitation if that's what it is. So I expect this leader to get better as reveals go on. This isn't one of the ones where I immediately think, oh yeah, this leader is trash, right? I've only seen 2, or this leader's great. I can play a 4-drop for 2 energy. Like, we need more on this one. So I think he has a lot of room to grow and develop as the game continues onward. Definitely like where he's going. I do like that he has crit on the unawakened side. Like I said, crit is a strong skill. I do like critical. Definitely relevant to see. So this is one of the leaders that I think is contender for the best blue leader. I'm stuck between him and Vegeta. Vegeta gets such a huge boost to where I'm kind of like, maybe Vegeta's better. But what you can do with this Trunks leader is actually really strong. So his standard unawakening side, his awakened side, the standard draw 1 20k power leader. What sets him apart here, the activate main once per turn. Choose up to 1 battle card with a cost of 3 or less and return it to its owner's hand. So you can choose your own battle card, you can choose your opponent's battle card. Now, in the Frieza matchup, I have a feeling you're probably going to be choosing your opponent's battle cards a lot more than your own. But generically speaking, I actually think you're going to be bouncing your own cards a lot more. And part of me thinks this because I've experienced the legendary flute in Masters, and I experienced what it's like to bounce your own card back to hand and then replay it if it's just like of huge value. We do have some value engine cards that already exist. So for example here, you could be replaying this Trunks youth here. You could have 7 or fewer cards in your hand. He'll have a 10k boost. He'll be a 2-drop 25k. And you can just swing it, activate your leader, the Trunks leader, bounce it back to hand, and you can play it again, and then swing it again. So very interesting. You could have basically 2-drop 25ks, but for the price of 1. Not for the price of 1, but you don't have to use another card from your hand, essentially. It's the same card. One other engine I really like is you can use the Gallic Gun extra card. When you're at like 8 cards in hand, you technically have 7 cards after the usage, get the effect there. Then you could play Piccolo. Piccolo being played from your hand, and he says if you have 7 or fewer cards in hand, you can choose an extra card in your drop and bring it back to your hand. I think a blue extra card in particular. Let me find that. And what you could do, I flipped right to, perfect. No, just 1 extra card. Okay, so he's really generic, but he's a 3-drop that does that. So you can bring back the Gallic Gun, and then you can swing with Piccolo or something, and then you can do the activate main on the Trunks future. And because Piccolo is a 3 or less, you can bring Piccolo back to your hand. So you end up still having the Gallic Gun. You end up still having the Piccolo. You just applied a bigger attack with the Gallic Gun, or defended an attack and it went back to your turn, something like that. You still have the Piccolo, so this literally is a never-ending recycling of this ability. You can still continuously, technically speaking, you can do this as much as possible within the game until you run out of cards in your deck, which I find very interesting. So it's a nice way to keep recycling a 15k combo, while also maintaining some hand size potentially, while also maintaining a constant body coming at you. So I definitely think that combination is just absolutely huge. Something I think Trunks is going to be big for is just being able to reuse your own battle cards on board and get multiple uses out of them in one turn or continuous turns, especially if you're not seeing them over and over. But just remember, the limitation is specifically battle cards 3 or less. I do think this leader is probably the best blue leader, but I do think Vegeta's on par with how big he can just get. Um, all kind of whittles down to if there's any direct support for the traits for the leaders or character names. So something to keep our eyes out for. I'm excited to try this leader. That's for certain. As for Android 17 and 18, I think this is just a really generic green leader. I don't think it's bad. I don't think it's great. I think it's right in the middle right now until we see more. Standard on Awakened side. And then on the Awakened side, it's permanent as if you have 6 or more energy, this card gets 10k power. So it's becoming a 30k leader at the cost of nothing. The only requirement is you have to be 6 or more energy, and green has the ability to ramp. So it can definitely get there pretty easily. The power buff's only during your own turn, which is fine. It's rivaling Vegeta almost, but it's also, this is already invalidating the Broly being a 25k base because you don't have to drop anything from your hand. You're already a 30k swing coming at Broly. So if they want to combo a 10k to get out of this, sure. If you combo a little bit higher, that just means you're just a tiny bit over where they need to start, right? So I do think it's a pretty solid leader. I just don't think there's anything insane going for it as of current, but it might end up being better than what I'm thinking. It could be the best of the bunch. I definitely think it's a contender for it. I think Broly's the worst of the three, but maybe that's just me. I do have a little bit of bias. Um, so here we have Gohan Childhood. This guy can get big. And with that, technically speaking, Android 17 and Android 18 would be a tad bit off. They'd only be like 5k short with the combination I'm currently thinking in my head. But Son Gohan, Childhood, pretty much all the green decks want to ramp. There really doesn't feel like there's any differentiation from minor board control and ramping. So that's the only downside with green currently until they reveal more. It definitely feels like they've been neglecting it on reveals. And I don't know why that is. Just kind of feels like it. But Gohan, standard on Awakened side, and then on the Awakened side, what I really like here, obviously he's got the draw one. He's a 20k power. The activate battle, though, once per turn, this works on both turns. This is why I think he's better than Android 17 and 18, which means if someone is swinging at you and you really don't want to use cards from your hand and you're willing to use your energy, or if you have to do this to survive, you have the activate battle here to place one of your energy in the drop and get 15k power for the battle. Why I think it's good, it works on both turns, like I said. It means you can use it offensively, you can use it defensively. Yes, it's at the cost of one of your energy being popped, but sometimes you have to do what you need to do to survive defensively. In terms of going offensively, I really would only ever do this if I want to force the life, I'm willing to give up the energy, and I have a plan. But one of the combinations I said is with the Gigantic Meteor extra card. This is where it gets really cool. So it gives you a 15k buff when you pay 1 for it. Cool. Cool. And then if you're at 6 or more energy, it gives you an additional 10k buff. So you're talking a 25k power buff to your leader. So if you're sequencing it, right, you pay for the extra card first if you're trying to do an offensive play or defensive play. Doesn't really matter how you go about it. Need the 6 or more energy requirement for maximum effect. So you're already going to 45, like I said. So then how you sequence it after that, say you are at 6 energy at the time of doing that. So that is definitely what you want to do first. Then you do your activate battle on your leader, and then you get plus 15k power. You're getting a total of 40,000 power added onto your leader at the cost of 1 card and 1 energy. So you only lose 1 card in hand and you lose 1 energy. Like I said, with green being ramp, it has a lot of ways to get energy back. So you're willing to risk energy with a deck like this. Especially if you need to survive using it or if you're willing to put on the pressure with it. But that's only counting one card from your hand and one from your energy, like I said. So if you're pushing from game or for game and you have multiple of those extra cards in your hand, your leader can get huge, absolutely huge. And I do think it's nice with some of the green cards where you have the Turles, for example. You know, it's nice to have a 30k crit backing you up at all times. So now they need to prioritize either swinging at that or your life, or having the removal for it. But I do think this leader is the best out of the bunch for now, until they reveal more, and maybe it offsets that, what I think. But I do think they need to reveal something directly for this leader, something tied in here, or at least a Super Saiyan 2 Gohan SR, right? Definitely the one I think is the best. Just needing to. This is a more sequence heavy deck in my mind out of the three. Just being smart on how to utilize your energy to the fullest. Here we have Ginyu, very reminiscent of a lot of the Masters Ginyu cards, but it's kind of like it feels like an all-in-one sort of deal, which I thought was funny. Standard on Awakened side. Oh no, 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 no! I did misread this. I did misread him. He is not a draw one leader. His Awaken is, if your life is at 4 less, switch up to one of your energy to active mode, then flip this card over. So it's already trying to be an aggressive deck. We always know that in Masters, at least, untapping an energy typically allows for an elongation of a turn. Or if you want to leave that energy up to play defensive, you totally can. But in my mind, you usually use it to be more aggressive and get more plays out. So, what do we have here? We don't have a lot of Ginyu Force cards revealed yet. But this activate main on the Awaken side. You pay 3, discard 2 cards from your hand. It's a little bit of a steep cost, a little bit. Choose all your battle cards with Ginyu Force and their special traits and switch them to active mode. If you even have 3 of these on your board and they're like 20 to 30Ks and you do this, you're already having, you go swing, 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 activate, restand, 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 swing, swing, swing. So you have 6 attacks for the cost of an additional 3 energy. And to me, it feels like it's a very good potential. It does have a hefty downside when you're discarding 2 cards and using 3 of your own energy to do that. So I could be totally wrong in this being good. Like, in theory, it sounds good. I think we just need to see a tiny bit more for it to truly be good. I think the leader has potential, but I think it has a drawback. It has a pretty hefty drawback. But it's very susceptible to removal decks as well. So if it's going for low cost spam and you're automatically facing Trunks, who just goes, let me bounce a 3 or less back to your hand, right? It's like, oh, you did that for free. It cost you nothing in hand. That's great, cool. And meanwhile, I still have to pay to replay my cards, at least for now. I don't know. Ginyu has apparent weaknesses. It looks like it's trying to be the low to the ground spam, but I honestly think it is the weakest of the 3 yellow leaders. It looks fun in terms of what it's trying to do. I think we just need a little bit more of the Ginyu Force to be revealed, and maybe there's like a Ginyu SR that's just like cracked, right? We'll see. We'll see. Cooler, I do like this leader. This is one that's on par with the Yellow Frieza leader in my mind, which makes sense. The brothers, right? So the critical unawakened side, same exact skills all around. The awakened skill is also a draw one, so not an untap and energy there. So on the awakened side, it has an activate main slash battle, which is our first time seeing the activate main slash battle being specifically written. Awaken is one of those skills, but in here they have the actual activate main slash battle wording there. So nice to see that we have that returning. Once returned, you can discard a card from your hand, choose up to one of your battle cards that energy cost of 4 or less, and freeze the clan and its special traits, or one of your energy and switch it to active mode. Definitely interesting that they gave you the potential to untap an energy in yellow, but you also can have multiple uses out of a 4 or less Frieza clan. It would have to be a yellow Frieza clan since your leader is yellow. I don't actually think we have a whole lot aside from King Cold off the top of my head and like a couple Frieza cards. But I don't think a lot of the... So I'm just doing a quick browse through. I don't think a lot of the Frieza cards are going to be relevant, unfortunately. Like, yeah, you could double swing with a 25k. That's just a vanilla. That's not a 4 or less. This is a 4 or less. Um, it being a blocker, I mean, this feels like it thrives more in the Frieza deck because it's free to restand it at the end of the turn and have it be a blocker. But odds are you're not going to want to restand it to attack with it again. But you could end up doing that. I've done some crazy stuff before. This is only a 15k, so this probably isn't really going to be relevant. I don't think it really has anything too crazy going for it. I guess this, a 4-drop 30k, sure. Hmm. This helps having the, because it's going to be a more of a Frieza Clan deck, having the Chilled on board to bump your Frieza Clan cards defensively is pretty nice. But I don't really think it helps the deck a whole lot either. I don't realistically think it has a full payoff until we see more of the set. It looks like it's trying. It's just not quite there yet. But with that, I do think he's still the second best yellow leader until we see more. Like I said, these are all initial thoughts. That is all the leaders they revealed. So 8 starter leads. Unfortunately, no alt art leaders shown yet. I was kind of hoping for that, but is what it is. Definitely excited to see the alt arts after seeing this SR into the alt art here. So the left being the SR, the right being the alt SR. I'm excited for the potential because if these are the leader arts, and I was flabbergasted by the leader arts, and these aren't even alternate arts. Oh boy, these alt arts about to be spicy. They're about to be spicy. But in terms of what the leaders do and what I think their play styles are going to be and kind of where they're going to lie in gameplay, that's my initial thoughts. I'm sure by the time all the reveal season ends for the first set, a lot of my opinions are going to change, and maybe once I get to play a little bit too. So hopefully I get to play a bit, understand these leaders, and kind of get the hang and get a feel of where they'll be going forward. Maybe I'll come back. I'll come back with a new video and update my opinions on each of the leaders. Um, but that was my initial overview of each of the leaders. I hope you guys did enjoy, and I'll see you guys in the next video.